Morning. It is 5 minutes after the hour is 6 o'clock. All
Played
right.
already. See, good morning.
Of course, good morning to all those that are joining us on YouTube this morning. Good morning to you. Of course, let's take a look at the WT, see what's happening. Traffic wise, heading to Piarco, you've got some traffic westbound, Trin City towards Paja Yui, you've got something. A little volume by Aranguez, getting to Port of Spain by Swim Call, you got some heavy volume there. Nothing to really tell you about in the Southland. Chase Village towards Sugarguanas, and then Charlieville towards Caroni, you've got some traffic there. I don't know what caused that traffic yesterday afternoon. But I know it took somebody 3 hours and 45 minutes from Port of Spain to Arima yesterday. They didn't get home till after 7.
Really?
And I don't know what caused that. That was just horrendous traffic yesterday. All right,
Hmm.
take a look with weather-wise for Trinidad and Tobago. Let me just go here. I hope the Met Office updated their website. Let's see. No, they have not. They have not, but they're saying partly cloudy conditions with occasional light to moderate showers and a medium 60% chance of scattered thunderstorms, gusty winds, and street and flash flooding. Yesterday it was 40%, but yesterday they also said it was going to be generally sunny. Maximum forecast temp for both islands at 31 degrees. All right, so I said it's 26 degrees at Piarco and at Crown Point. It is 17 and sunny in Toronto. Miami, you're at 25. Orlando, 22. New York, 14 and sunny. Atlanta, you're at 17. London, 14. Tampa, 22. Washington, D.C., you're at 14 degrees and sunny. All right. So let me say good morning, good night to Paul Richards. What's happening, my friend?
Morning, Steve. Morning, everyone.
Morning. How you doing? It is the 1st of June, my friend.
Yeah, already. Imagine that.
Yeah, 2023, just almost halfway done.
Yep. Yeah, zooming past.
We zooming past, no kidding.
We're speeding
No,
around the sun.
we are indeed. And of course,
We're speeding around the sun.
yeah. Oliver Manwar is in that 3 accidents on southbound at different locations, hence the traffic. Well, we need to have some traffic management. You know, at peak time traffic, you should be clearing that as quickly as possible. I don't know if you were stuck in traffic yesterday, Paul, but it was horrendous.
No, I wasn't, but you're telling us about it. No, I didn't understand.
It
Realize there was
was
so much traffic yesterday.
it was absolutely horrendous. Imagine taking almost 4 hours from Port of Spain to Arima.
Yeah, that's challenging. After you spend
That's
whole day work and probably spend 2 hours going to work in the morning.
exactly 2 hours go to work. Plus, you had to leave home early, and then productive day, and then almost 4 hours to get back. No,
Yeah, that's a
no,
lot.
no, that's terrible. I'm getting buffed here that I did not say hello to people on our message board. So let me start off. First off the gate this morning, we got Ken E. Celia, good morning. Ana Valencia. Maria Marva. Sankofa, good morning. I have to be up this hour. What had caffeine? Okay. Uh, DJ Ray, not in Tampa, but Delaware. Good morning. Oliver Man Warren, thank you so much. Rena Boodoo Jennings, Ms. Maloney, Doodoo, good morning. Rabbit, good morning, everyone. From Miss Ingrid, Carol Guevara, Rabbit, yep. D. Pierre, good morning. Rabbit. You all following my lead, eh? Trev and Arima, CJ New York, Marcia Rock on YouTube. Good morning to you, Marcia. It's a big wave for you. And Edwin Marshall. Morning, gentlemen. Happy Thursday to all. Thank you so much as you watch us on YouTube. Right, so now, Malika Buffman. Mr. Carapo, good morning. You just snuck in. Yes, Paul.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was so much traffic yesterday.
Yeah, it was brutal. And then late last night, let me just pull it up here. The TTPS has been working, boy. They said millions of dollars in stolen vehicle parts have been found.
What? Good for the police service.
Yeah.
All right, please get on, man.
Second division headed by senior Richard
Yeah,
Smith. Hey there, Richard Smith, senior superintendent.
good for you.
Yeah. Let me see. I had a breakdown. 100 car engines, 100 hybrid car batteries.
Wow.
You know that's expensive. 100 windshields, Siemens doors, 7 vehicle shell, bumpers, and hundreds of other car parts.
Hmm.
Wow.
Well, there had been an increase in car thefts
Yeah,
over the
yeah.
last couple of months.
There
So
was a video I saw this morning where a lady went to Price Smart and she parked in Port of Spain and she parked on top and came back in the car gone.
in PriceSmart,
Yeah. And she called the security guide and it's alleged that he said that that her car is the fourth within a week.
wow, good to know. I
And
thought your car was relatively safe in PriceSmart. I didn't realize they were stealing cars in the PriceSmart.
yeah,
Which PriceSmart?
it looked like Port of Spain. I put my club lock on my steering wheel, yes. As ancient as it may look, it's a deterrent. It is a deterrent. And Paul, I don't know if you saw this as well. Let me see if I can get it here. Um, let me just see. A ranger, forest, I'll get his name shortly. Where's my thing here? I'll get his name shortly. A ranger, forest ranger, went to someone's house after some investigation and was led to western part of Trinidad where they found not a vehicle, a jaguar.
You're stealing Jaguar now?
Well, they had to bring that in. The animal, the four-legged animal.
Or the animal? I thought it was a car
Yeah,
you're talking about.
not a car, a young jaguar. Clearly, it was sedated. And it's at the zoo now. They took it to the zoo.
Somebody brought in a pet or something?
It had to be.
Wow.
Jaguar found in West. That went so viral.
That is astounding.
I'm trying to get his name here.
That is astounding, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, it is. They got information. A search was executed by residents in Central Division. Yeah, where they went to South Trinidad and a wooden cage was found with a heavy,
Wow.
and it looked like a tranquilizer dart that they pulled out as well. I don't know if you saw the video. I'll send it to you now.
No, I didn't. I didn't see the video.
I'll send it to you now. It was handed over to the emperor. Can I ask a question here, Paul? I don't know if you could answer. I really don't know. We have a Coast Guard supposed to protect our seas. And how come all these illegal items clearly must come in by boat?
But they can't monitor every inch of the coastline, Steve.
Well, I understand that. But I'm sure they must have some intel.
Well,
I don't know.
you're not sure that they must have intel.
I don't know. I really don't. Let me send this thing for you now. I'll send it to news.
But I don't think that came in through any illegal portion. I think that would have come in with somebody putting it in a dinghy and bring it in. That coming through a legal port, like much of the contraband coming into the country. It's not there's somebody pays somebody some money and say, don't interfere with that container.
Yeah.
And that's how it goes very often in Trinidad. Trinidad, I don't know about Tobago.
Yeah.
So because I don't think somebody will bring an animal like that. Or they sit sedated on a small dinghy. That coming through a big container in a big cage or something, and somebody with some leverage was able to get it passed through customs. But I'm glad the authorities were able to seize the animal. But that's clearly somebody with money, because that is people with money like exotic animals as pets for some reason. They follow this. Some of the people in Dubai who have lions and tigers and ocelots and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yes,
Mm-hmm.
clearly, by somebody with
Mm-hmm.
money. Clearly.
And a young one, huh?
Well, you ain't want to get an old one who want to eat you.
Yeah, it's pretty young.
You get a young one to get it accustomed to you. You will get a
All right.
5-year-old tiger that's looking to eat you.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I'm glad you thought he's got it. So I guess it's the property of the
Yeah.
Emperor of Atlantis now. So, you know. Hmm. I see the Prime Minister's commented on the Father Augustine situation when asked at the PNM meeting, breakfast meeting yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
He said, which is a responsible
Was that
thing,
in
he said,
Tobago?
let the law, I don't think so.
Oh.
Let the law take its course. When he was asked about it,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Rowley said he would be responsible in his actions and called for the law to take its course once breached. So he didn't suggest the law was breached. I'm sure he's taking note of the commentary in the public domain about it, and I'm sure somebody sent it to him and he listened to it. But it's up to law enforcement if they feel the law has been breached to take further action. The Prime Minister is right. And that's why I kept saying if. And Mr. Augustine has not commented yet. I do believe we have Dr. Barnes James this morning.
We have
Later
Dr.
on this
Barnes
morning,
James this morning.
who had been on public record as saying he was advising Mr. Augustine in the lead up to the last election, Mr. Augustine and his team. So we talked to him about it and see what he thinks. I see there's a Newsday, where is it? A Newsday editorial 12 hours ago, which has a picture of Mr. Augustine. And it goes, and I quote, in the wake of the emergence of an audio clip purporting to incriminate Tobago House of Assembly officials in a plan to use public funds to further private political interests. Members of the administration of the Chief Secretary, Father Augustine, have unsatisfactorily remained silent. When public officials say nothing, it's sometimes a good reason. The matter may be before the court. It may be unwise to say anything that could risk influencing the outcome. Or it may be subject to an ongoing investigation. Facts may still be unconfirmed. The authenticity of material is still questionable. It may be premature to speak. Very often, the public fears politicians as simply stonewalling, stalling in the hope that the passage of time will make the issue disappear. The normally loquacious Chief Secretary is not exactly rushed to distance his administration from the clip, which emerged more than 1 week ago. In stark contrast, political opponents, political analysts, and others have wasted little time raising their voices to call on him to speak on the issue. The Chief Secretary should not rush to speak. But equally, no politician should ever miss an opportunity to distance the administration from graft. That Mr. Augustine has been slow to do, has exposed his party to more allegations at a time when it is under increased scrutiny. This month, Tobago West MP Shamfa Kojo questioned what the THA will do with an additional 100 million approved in the recent media review. That supplemental appropriation, which is presumably to be spread across THA divisions, would normally be regarded as part of the ordinary budget process. In the current environment, however, it has become a matter of chest thumping by the central government and may yet become a lightning rod for controversy. The Prime Minister is on record as viewing Mr. Augustine's administration as lacking a clear mandate given the political maneuvers that have taken place involved in it. The pressure has also been heaped on Mr. Augustine's administration by a recent court ruling which has underlined the flagrant breaches of the law. On Friday, Justice Frank C. Prasad stopped the THA from continuing work on the Shervan-Storbay local connector road. The granting of an ex parte injunction came pursuant to an action from the EMA, which had complained in an emergency application that the requisite approvals had not been granted. Such developments came after the THA's well-publicized construction of a stage in the sea along Milford Road, Scarborough, for which officials expressed open contempt for approval processes. Sadly, the use of public resources for private gain is not new to our political landscape. That is precisely why Mr. Augustine needs to address the issue if he hopes to distinguish himself from his counterparts and restore lost faith in his administration's ways. And this is the Newsday of 12 hours ago by the editorial, which I agree with fully. I don't know how Mr. Augustine thinks he could just sit silent and leave very serious allegations.
Yeah. You know, I'm not going to say anything. Yes, leave that like that. No.
Yeah, but if it's not you, you have a responsibility to come out and distance your administration from it. They're very serious allegations.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment.
But it's not going to go away, particularly during silly season. The number I sent you is for Dr. Neil Singh. He's the head of the medical board. If we want to talk to him about the 1 week suspension of Dr. Avinash saw recently. The medical board conducted the investigation on the controversial Dr. Saw and suspended him for 1 week. But I saw the Minister of Health yesterday, and he said he was never called as one of the complainants, or he's one of the complainants as the Minister of Health, nor interviewed, which is strange. If the medical board did an investigation into Dr. Saw's rantings, this ridiculously disgusting rantings at that, which he apologized for, which means that he accepted that it was him, and the Ministry of Health is one of the complainants, how can the medical board do a proper investigation without calling the complainants for questioning? How? And then give him a little slap on the wrist of a week off. A week suspension of license, which is like a joke, given the horrible statements of racist nature that Dr. Saw uttered. 1 week off, 1 week suspension. And did not call, in the words of the Minister of Health yesterday, did not call I think the Minister of Health was a complainant, and the person who he may have been talking to, if I'm not mistaken. I think the Nurses Association also complained. We could probably call ESTO later on this morning to see if they were called as a complainant. And we could call Dr. Singh to ask what kind of investigation they did. Well, the investigation may have, and Dennis Sebran Sweet, senior counsel, I think, was the attorney for the medical board, if I'm not mistaken. I can stand corrected on that. Never a dull moment. When I saw the week off, I just said, okay, it's just such a joke. Such a joke. But you know what we say. They have the blue water silence in police. They have the white water silence in medical profession. So, but back to Mr.
And
Augustine.
legal profession too.
Parts of the legal profession, not all. The legal profession is quite fractured. In one legal profession, to have criminal bar, to have civil bar, to have parts of criminal bar go left, parts of criminal bar go right. The legal profession is quite fractured in many ways in that regard. So Mr. Augustine is still silent. We should have started a countdown, the whatever.
Yeah, we should do that.
2 weeks. He can't go and talk about no integrity unless he clears his name and his administration.
Exactly.
Can't. Wasn't he one of the persons who started his political career talking about new politics and integrity in politics and all of that? So if it is not you, again, come out and say, that is not me.
Yeah.
You'll start calling my name in that.
And don't say a word, and not even a no comment, and
libeling and slandering me. I want to say it's not you, bruv. And he's somebody, remember, call quick, when the Prime Minister made a statement some months ago, jump out and say, the Prime Minister to mind his business, remember that?
Yeah.
So he's not one afraid to speak out. He's not one afraid to speak out. He speaks out very often. He spoke about saltfish some time ago very easily. The last time he tasted saltfish, there was no problem with it and all kind of stuff like that. He's very outspoken. Except on this.
He's not even been on Tobago media either.
Not that I have seen.
I've been checking.
Not that I have seen.
Not that I've seen.
So, very interesting.
The car was stolen in Movie Town, Port of Spain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Government will not invite international observers to monitor the upcoming local government elections Leader of the opposition, Kamala Pasabi, says to speaking during the UNC's Monday night forum, said she'd written to the Prime Minister,
Yeah.
Dr. Keith Rowley, requesting the government invite foreign observers to ensure free and fair local government elections. However, Dr. Rowley, speaking at the PNM breakfast meeting Wednesday, said
Wonder if this is it.
that he will not
We're
be
going
doing
to a
so.
local government election. We've had that over and over and over and over. Some of our colleagues are telling me I must invite foreigners to come and observe our local government election. No. What is it we expect to happen here in a local election that we have to invite foreigners to come and look at it? They're free to come if they wish. It's a free country. But that is not part of the government system. Why are we selling ourselves short? We send people from Trinidad and Tobago from our election and boundaries commission to observe other people's election because they see us as superstars in that business.
But I will tell you, I saw a clip circulating on social media last night, which where Dr. Rowley said, I don't want to misquote, but the implication was that we should welcome any observers, but that he was in opposition then. I think. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Ooh. Interesting, yeah, Paul.
You know, there's finding is here a long time.
Yeah.
You understand? H.S. Wilson said, I agree with you on Farley. However, we stop hearing you and your colleagues calling on the Prime Minister to call. So you anticipate that really, H.S. Wilson? I said it last night in the Senate also. I said that we should actually have the date for local government election. I will say it again now if it will please you, sir. I think the Prime Minister should call local government election date today. Yesterday, day before yesterday. I hope that satisfies your need for us to say it every day.
When is it? When is he? What in June, July, August? It'll
Sorry?
come, no, the date when the elections will come just now within 3 months. It just will.
That's not the point. The point is we want the date now.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
The
Sorry.
point is not that it's during 3 months.
Sorry.
We all know that.
Sorry.
We want the date now. I think the people need to get the date now. I agree with that.
Oh, okay.
This date in your back pocket.
Yeah, I keep saying this.
Like in Trinidad and Tobago.
Immature politics. It's in my back pocket. All I go sit down and wait. It's in my back pocket. No. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. Right. You found it yet or you didn't find it yet?
No, I didn't find it yet. I didn't find it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree that I think all this shenanigans about waiting. I think the only suggestion I was proffering is that he may have been waiting until the extensions bill passed, but it passed in the Senate last night. So quite frankly, I think they have a meeting today, if I'm not mistaken, some political meeting.
Today, yes, they do. Maloney or Arima side somewhere.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that in other political meeting today, that the Prime Minister calls the date for local government election. So I don't know if people want us to say it every day, as if we're in some political hustings. We've said it in the past several times. So yes, I want the date too. I hope that satisfies anybody who doesn't think that we break sin for somebody. No, I'm not breaking sin for nobody. I want the date last week. Given especially the Privy Council ruling on May 18th. So judgment handed down on May 18th. You understand that the terms were extended illegally. And you can spin and jump and dance and bob and weave how much you want. The court basically said the government had no remit in extending those terms, and those persons carried out post December 2nd illegally. You could call it what you want. You could use the more palatable nomenclature. You understand? But the date of elections, to be called on elections, need to be carried out. I think the EBC has already indicated that they are ready and awaiting the date.
And I think EBC, let me find it here now. Ugh. They sent out a release. Hold
Thank you. Michael Grandison asked, where's the video with the rescue of the cat? Okay. Is there a video of a rescue of a cat?
I sent it to
Oh,
you.
you sent it. Okay.
Yeah. I sent it to you. Where the heck is this thing, man?
Yeah, no cursor, that's right, Steve.
No. The go ahead. The appointments no longer required at EBC offices. I thought I'd let you all know that. Let me just get it here. The Election and Boundary Commission is pleased to advise the public that effective June 1st, today, rabbit, persons will no longer require appointments to conduct transactions at any EBC office. Persons conducting any of the following transactions need only to present themselves with the relevant documents at their respective registration area office. Applying for identification card for the first time, renewing expired identification, replacing lost or stolen ID card, changing name. Okay. Right. Okay. Roll that vid there, Paul.
Wait, calm down.
Oh, sorry.
Calm down. It has to be downloaded first.
Roll it down.
No,
Oh,
please,
gosh.
don't do that. Please.
America's
Don't do that.
Got Talent.
Please.
Watch out, Tenor.
Please don't do that.
Watch out. The voice.
We had enough rain. Please don't.
Is there more rain coming today? I just love the fact. Let me see if the Met Office has updated their weather. Yeah, this is from DJ News. Yeah. Game wardens have opened the heat on wildlife traders. It resulted in recovery of a jaguar in the police Western Division yesterday. An anonymous caller contacted the Forestry Division and related the information resulting in the operation. Oh, I missed that. A search was
the animal, right?
Yeah, a search was executed at a residence in Central Division where individuals and residents were informed of the severity of the offense. If they are caught with said protected animal, the wardens then proceeded to West Trinidad with the jaguar at an undisclosed. God, he moving too fast. The animal was then secured and handed over to the Emperor Valley Zoo for safekeeping. The elite team of game wardens won Salim Sahadio, Nelini, Kemraj, Shakti, Ramuta, Tariq, something. I think the video comes up now. Oh, okay, that's something else. Here's the video of them in that wooden box, heavily.
Game wardens are no longer accepting, right, the habit of persons engaging into the wildlife trade, and we go out of the way to put a dent on this trade.
Damn right. Look how small. If you all watching the video, you didn't see.
That's a young.
It's a young jaguar.
Yeah.
Clearly heavily sedated.
Game wardens are no longer accepting, right, the habit of persons engaging into the wildlife trade, and we go out of the way to put a dent on this trade.
And there he is. A young jaguar. You go, game wardens. You go, game wardens.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's some big shot.
That ain't cheap.
Yeah, that's some big shot.
That ain't cheap at all.
Yeah, that is not cheap.
No.
Those animals are very expensive, and as I said, generally you see billionaires in Saudi Arabia having lions, tigers, jaguars, ocelots, all sorts of exotic animals as pets. And I guess I'm saying as a rich person, because I don't think any poor person could really be
somebody rich
on the open market.
Somebody rich.
Average means could afford that in the open market.
You know? In a wooden crate.
But I'm glad you're
saw the dot, right? You saw
yeah. To confiscate the animal. And what they said is at the Emperor Valley Zoo now.
Yeah.
And they better increase security. Somebody might want to try to pilfer it. Anything is possible, you know.
You know, I could say a lot of things about the zoo. When last I went to the zoo, Paul?
About 30 years.
Paul, next, I would advise you to take a walk. Going to the zoo.
No, thank you.
and come back and tell me what you think.
Unnecessary. Why?
No, I don't want to say. You go when you come back. We'll have
No,
a
I'm not going. So you better say.
Let me tell you, I feel so sorry for the lion. No interaction with any beast, just in this enclosure.
Interaction. What interaction? What with that?
Well, yeah, but you're stuck in an enclosure by yourself for years, no?
But it's a zoo, though.
The rats.
But you want that human to go in and play with it?
You didn't hear what I just said. The
So you
rats.
want another lion put in there with it?
The rats. I don't know. I don't know. The giraffes and the swans and stuff and the turtles. Yeah, but I don't know.
So what's the problem? Tell me what the problem is. You see it making these exclamations
It's
when you're not
just,
seeing
you
any
know what?
problem.
I'll be frank about it. It's absolutely deplorable.
In what
It's
way?
absolute the grounds, the enclosure for the animals. I'm watching. Last time I took my niece there, a rat running into an enclosure. I was like, oh God, no. It's actually deplorable.
Hmm.
It needs some work. The
I'm in
ground
there for over 30
work.
years. So I wouldn't know. I do think it's an impressive zoo. I do think they've done very much to upgrade the zoo since I'm a child. So I
Yeah.
still don't see no reason to go to the zoo.
Well, I think
I think they built a building on the western
the
end
building one,
at some point.
the
But the
building one,
building
right?
one, no, they've been
Yeah,
building one for a number of years, and I just don't see. I guess if you're a child, it's wonderful. You never see a real zoo,
yeah,
you know. I went to the zoo in Frankfurt, and that's a real zoo.
yeah. Canadian Zoo. Oh yeah, yeah.
You understand?
Miami
So
Zoo.
I don't think we've done very much to upgrade the zoo. I
No,
feel the zoo is
no,
a very limited zoo,
no.
you
You
know,
have
and a
not.
zoo is a very important place for educating children. So
When you have a
that's
lot
why
of
I've never been.
yeah.
Since I'm a child, I've just never been. I just don't see the point.
My niece wanted to go and see the giraffes, so we took her. That is
The
nice.
animals are in relatively good shape, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
It's just
It's
the
just
ground.
the infrastructure, you know, it's just very basic to me.
Well, it's old. The
Yeah.
same way you looked at it 30 years ago, it's the same way now.
I much suspect.
You know?
I much suspect.
Yeah. It
I
should
don't
be.
think I from when I pass going around the savannah, I don't see that very much probably has been done. I don't see the pictures I see when
Mhm.
people take their children and loved ones and post. It looked like it has stuck in a time warp to me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I don't know.
That's it.
I think it falls on the Ministry of Agriculture, if I'm not mistaken.
It does. And they
Uh,
shouldn't, the ministry needs to inject some money into that zoo to help with the infrastructure. Yes, you're building whatever it is, I don't know. But the grounds need keeping, call a rent to kill or one of those, put some rat trap somewhere. I don't know. It just, when I saw the rat, I just didn't touch anything after that.
yeah, well, yeah, that would upset me too.
Yeah, yeah. I think we left. I left like a couple of minutes. I said no. Let's get out of here.
No, I just think it needs to be upgraded and
It does.
the facilities expanded.
Yeah, it
You
does.
know, I also think they need a zoo in San Fernando. I don't think children from San Fernando should have to come all the way to Port Spain for a zoo.
Yeah. Actually, I think they should move that zoo to like central Trinidad, where there's a lot more acreage that they can use.
That might be a good idea.
You know,
I think it's outgrown that little space in the
it does.
corner of the
There's
botanical gardens.
10 cars in the parking lot full.
Yeah, it's just and just the noise from parties at Carnival and the noise from the
Parties.
cars passing and
Yeah.
I
Fireworks.
just think that's not the ideal place for a zoo to
No,
me.
it's not. It should be relocated.
So
And the whoever's in charge should fight for that.
well, I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon.
It's
And then they
not
have great
going to
staff.
happen in my lifetime, which will be as old as Richard. Where is Mr. Ragobarsingh, by the way? Michael Gradison, good morning. He's H.S. Wilson is saying politicians are just blatantly hypocrites. Okay.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
administrations say one thing when they're in opposition, and when they're in government is something else.
Yeah.
That is quite the norm, unfortunately.
Yeah. Good morning to Dre out in Rio Claro, locked on and listening. How is the weather in Rio Claro, Dre? To get to Rio Claro, Paul, oh my God. That road is horrendous from the Solomon Street to Rio Claro. Not me. I would
I
love
drove down
to.
there about 12 years ago. It's not an easy drive.
No, it's not. It is not. All right.
But it doesn't the highway extension make it easier now at some point?
I have no clue.
I think so. I think the highway extension takes you a lot closer to the Rio Claro area, and then you just come off a side road or
Dre,
something.
you would know, Dre. Tell us, is that true?
Yeah, man, that highway extension takes you pretty far down. Last time I went down, I was going to where? Point Fortin, and the highway extension takes you pretty far down.
Good morning, Anthony Tinto out in Canada. Good morning to you.
So the big story this morning continues to be, of course, the extension of term validation and bill was passed in the Senate last night. Once amendment from the Attorney General, and the big story really continues to be Mr. Farley Augustine and his silence on this issue of the audio tape. And people are asking him to come out and say, "Well, it's not me. That's not me, sir. You all are ascribing onto me things that I did not do."
I so want to play a Shaggy song.
No, please don't.
I know.
Yeah, he's saying it's
sing
not
it.
me.
You don't want me
or
to
he should
sing
be
it?
saying. And it's not the first editorial I've seen on the issue saying Mr. Augustine should come out and actually
Wasn't me.
refute it's him and protect the good name of his administration and his good self.
Wasn't me.
We have not seen that. It's very silent.
Wasn't me.
Very, very silent. And whoever's in the audio tape is reporting quite unethical and corrupt practices.
Wasn't me.
So,
Wasn't
I don't know. Take a couple of calls, see what the audience thinks. 222 talk, 222.
Wasn't me. See, I'm singing it.
8255.
I'll sing it.
12.
What's your numbers there, Paul?
North Americans toll free at 866-525-1099. So 222 talk, 255.
I'm impressed. It's
What
a
do you
good
think
thing
about
it's a good thing you typed it
Mr.
out.
Augustine's silence on this audio tape that
Yeah.
many are alleging sounds specifically like him? That's the thing about when you enter public life, your voice becomes quite well known to most people. Your voices are like a signature,
Yeah. On radio too.
Yeah, so I think he should come out and say something. People have been calling on him.
Like that guy.
Not been timid in the past to jump out and respond to issues. I don't know. Things that make you go,
Wasn't me.
why are you so silent, Mr. Augustine?
Wasn't me.
So silent. So quiet in this very, very troubling issue. Remember when they had the imbroglio with Watson Duke or the cultural group going to New York? He was very vocal then.
Well, that's how the whole thing started. With that cultural group going to New
And then
York.
when the Prime Minister made a comment, he told the Prime Minister, mind your business. Wasn't that so? Mind your business. So
Yeah.
how come you're not saying anything on this now? It's quite an interesting conundrum we find ourselves in. But you know what is with politicians? I don't know if he thinks it's going to go away anytime soon. I can tell you it's not. It's going to come up over and over again. And when he finally comes to the media to address some issue, I can guarantee you they're going to stick a mic in his face and ask him if this was him. So I guess he's looking for the right answer at that point. And he will probably throw the mic back. Does it sound like me? You know what politicians are.
Yeah. Hey, look who it is.
Good morning, guys.
Morning, old man. What's happening?
Good morning to listeners wherever you are.
Richard, I just want to tell you, Lisa has not called me as yet to give me my confirmation number for Cal Flight to Tobago this weekend.
Yeah, she'll do it sometime today, I'm sure.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you
So
so
look
much.
out for it.
Yes, I'll be waiting. The phone is right here, and it's not on silent.
Okay, it's 6:45. Do you have newspaper?
Yeah. Let me just say good morning, going out
No,
to
I don't.
Leonard Naipaul out in North Carolina.
Wendell Stephen and disease.
Lando says, good morning. Did you all see the video of the stolen car find in South Trinidad? Yeah, we should play that later on.
The stolen what?
But she,
The stolen what?
they found hundreds of vehicle parts and shells in New Grant and South.
Oh, I read that story. I didn't see a
Yeah.
video. Yeah.
Yeah, there's another video. Let me see if I can send it for you.
Right, so it's 6:45. Thursday, 1st June. Let's start with the Guardian online. PM sends warning to Farley THA executives: be careful, you breach the law. TTPS crackdown 17-year murder investigation. Trini actress in Little Mermaid, I feel a sense of pride. Secondary school system breeding uneducated gang members. Political activists calls on Farley to resign and call election in Tobago. No bail for cops facing trial for Moruga triple murder. 4 houses fall into table and precipice. PM says no to foreign observers for local government election. And Moruga man to serve 20 years in jail for raping and molesting his daughter. Let's move now to the Express Online. Digital gender violence, a big problem in TNT. CEO of Tobago, RHA fired with immediate effect. Oil dumped into Carney River. PM blanks Kamala's request for election observers. Bail for man and rape charge. People willing but not financially able. And those are some of the trending stories. The TTPS gender-based violence unit says gender-based violence is a rampant issue, but victims are reluctant to report the crimes. That's trending in the Express. Let's move now to the Newsday for today, June 1st. Mark, don't violate councils in the future. AG Amor amends local government bill to be retroactive. AG Alrari, get local government reform right. Imber, Ministry of Energy seeks source of dumped oil. Lachmidial, contempt and poppycock from PNM. A court stops release of fake Nike and Puma slippers. Moruga man must register as sex offender, 19 years for jail for sex attack on daughter. And Vera, Senate must pass local government validation bill. And 130-year-old mud house steady as a rock in Avocat. An ex-swordhead cleared to challenge National Security Ministry. So those are some trending stories in your Express, your Guardian, and your Newsday for today. And PM says TNT suffering from U.S. policy on Venezuela also. And Bond, U.S. willing to help government educate migrant children. So that's also a story that's been buzzing around the newspapers about the education of migrant children, which I think I posed a question, which is due to come up for answer, related to the government's policy on children of registered migrants in the country, which are not being educated, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, it's crazy to me too.
Yes,
I don't understand that policy at all.
Because I think the first registration wave would have taken place almost 3 years ago now, not so?
Yep.
So let's say somebody who is a registered migrant had a child in Trinidad and Tobago since they're here legally, and that child is now 3 years old, or they came with a child who was 3 years old who is now 6, and that child is out of school because no provisions have been made by the state of Trinidad and Tobago to educate these children, and there's silence on the government on it.
Yeah, it's because there's no comprehensive policy on the issue of how you deal with migrants, period.
But that's crazy to me, though. I think the Roman Catholic Archbishop recently also called on government. He said there's space in the system to educate registered migrant children. So maybe we could ask that question this morning.
And how you frame
Should Trinidad and Tobago move to educate the children of registered migrants? You understand? Registered migrants have been allowed to stay in Trinidad and Tobago and work while the turmoil goes on in Venezuela. So I don't know that you will register somebody to be able to stay here with their children, or somebody have a child here, and not put provisions in place to educate these children. I just think it's wrong.
I know
You
several
know?
NGOs were trying to pick up the slack, but I don't
Yeah, but
know.
that's not what the
I
state
don't.
should have an official policy
Yeah,
response to
but
it.
I don't think the NGOs can pick up all of this slack.
No.
So we could ask that question when Steve returns, I guess.
Yeah. Should
So
have one.
what did the American ambassador say? What was the point of view?
Hold on. Yeah. Let me tell you just now. Is it the news that I was on last? Right. Bond. It's a story by Clint Tanchak of 13 years ago. U.S. Ambassador Candace Bond says the U.S. is willing to help the government find ways to educate migrant children. She said the U.S. and other international partners have had discussions with the government on the topic. Bond says the U.S. government stands ready to help the government of TNT make that a reality. She made the comment while visiting the Narromine Migrant Support Group at the Parish Hall St. Benedict's RC Church in Narromine on Wednesday. She said education is dear to my heart, and she went on to elaborate on the story, which I mean, it really makes sense. But we have a sitting on Friday, so questions can be asked. And I know I filed a question on it, but I can change the format for more immediate answer. Because it's an urgent topic to me. So that's the question this morning. Should TNT move to educate children of registered migrants? Yes or no?
Yeah, what's your opinion on the issue? That's what polls are for, to solicit your opinion. What do you think? So 222 talk 222-8255, North Americans 866-525-1099, and that's absolutely toll free. People in other parts of the planet 1-868-222-talk 222-8255, and of course people on the web and the app, you can send your messages via the messaging portal on those respective platforms. But our poll this morning: should Trinidad and Tobago move to educate the children of registered migrants? That's our poll this morning.
Yeah. All right. And let me give you the results of our poll from yesterday, where we asked you, do you think international observers should be brought in for the upcoming local government elections? And 67% of you all said no. No, no, no. All right. To 222-8255. Toll free North Americans 866-525-1099. Good morning to you, caller.
Good morning, Steve. My answer is yes.
Radio, thank you. Kenny out in Harlem also says yes. All right, thank you, Kenny. Always locked on to the Power Breakfast Show. Lando, good morning. Carol Guevara, good morning. Leonard Naipaul, good morning. Ms. Bonaire West says yes. Thank you, Ms. Bonaire West. All right, 222-8255, toll free North Americans, 866-525-1099. Should Trinidad and Tobago move to educate the children of registered migrants? Yes or no? What says you, caller?
Good morning, Orlando. My answer is yes. And it's very similar to what America did with the Dreamers. Very similar.
All right.
No reason to stop the kids from being educated. No reason.
True. Thank you, Orlando. Thank you so much. Let's see. Lorna. Good morning, Lorna. Indy. Good morning, Carly. Yes, of course. Thank you so much. Ms. Maloney says yes. Thank you, Dudu. Carol Guevara says yes to the poll. Mo Gaines out in Aruca says, good morning, gentlemen. Yes to the poll. Long term, it will benefit the country and ease up on crime. All right, thank you so much, Mo Gaines. Dre said it's sunny right now in Rio Claro. Central Animal Lover says yes to the poll. Thank you so much, Central Animal Lover. You have 5 minutes again to vote on our poll. Should Trinidad and Tobago move to educate the children of registered migrants? Yes or no? All right, should. Oopsie, what did I do here? Right, there we go. Okay. Should they do that? Wayne, out in Simcoe, Ontario, Canada, says yes. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, Central Animal Lover said there were 3 accidents yesterday that caused all that traffic yesterday afternoon. Yeah, that was horrendous traffic.
Yeah, the traffic was really ridiculous.
Yeah. I was telling Paul earlier on, someone left Port of Spain at 4:30 and took 3 hours and 45 minutes to get to Arima. That is ridiculous. So far, I have no accidents to tell you about in our nation's roads, which is good. It's raining, people. I have one. I just spotted one. It is northbound on the Solomon Hochoy Highway after Gasparillo, northbound. Yeah. Yeah. And it's causing some traffic from Taruba all the way up to Gasparillo. All right. Southbound as well. All right. 222-8255. Toll free. 866-525-1099. Yep. Should Trinidad and Tobago move to educate the children of registered migrants? Yes or no? Vaughn Drayton says yes. Thank you, Vaughn. Mm-hmm. All right, yeah, there's calls coming in. Yeah, there were 3 accidents north and south corridor, and a truck was overturned in the vicinity of McCoy, blocking 1 lane. Thank you so much there. Minister in waiting. Let's see. Ooh. Yeah. Wow. On the Gasparello flyover, I don't know how that happened, but a truck has flipped. Right? On the Gasparello flyover. How did
So
that
our
happen?
poll this morning, should TNT move to educate the children of registered migrants? That's our poll this morning, in case you missed it. Should Trinidad and Tobago move to educate the children of registered migrants? We want to get your opinion on the matter. Of course, it's ticking upwards in terms of a topic. The U.S. ambassador saying that the U.S. is willing to assist, etc. So should Trinidad and Tobago move to educate the children of registered migrants? That's our poll this morning. 222-TALK, 222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. Absolutely toll free. People on the web and the app, of course, you can vote via sending your votes via the messaging portal on those respective platforms. What's your vote? Should Trinidad and Tobago move to educate the children of registered migrants? That's our poll this morning. Right now, they're not allowed into the public school system. So that's our poll. What says you? And what are the votes on the messaging platform, Steve?
Let's see. Last vote we got was Wayne. We got CJ New York saying yes. We got Gishan. Okay, Gishan, you need to say yes or no. Sherry is saying yes. Um, Gishan is saying all migrants are entitled to apply for student permits, and all Venezuelan migrants who registered are legally here and can apply. The issue to those who here illegally. All right. I got Mr. Carapo saying yes. Gishan is saying so. I vote no. Okay. I got Huda Wells. Good morning, gentlemen. Yes. Alistair Hart also says yes. All right. Any more votes coming through? All right. You can still vote. Give it. Give it results the other side of 7. All right. So let's get into our major news. AV is in.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
The UNC requests for international observers to monitor upcoming local government election turned down. The Prime Minister blames the education system for creating uneducated gang members, and samples taken following illegal dumping of oil in the Caroni River. Details in a moment. This is news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Avril Sintil-Bab. Good morning. The government will not invite international observers to monitor the upcoming local government elections. Opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissassa, speaking during the UNC's Monday night forum, said she'd written to Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley requesting the government invite foreign observers to ensure free and fair local government elections.
I have taken the liberty of writing the Prime Minister to request or to call upon him to bring in international election observers for the election. I call upon the Prime Minister to apologize to the country for the chaos you created in the local government election. And I call upon you to name the date, as Khadija said, if you name man, call the date.
However, the Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, speaking at a PNM breakfast meeting on Wednesday at the Hilton, Trinidad, said Trinidad and Tobago has a good track record and has sent people to monitor elections in other nations. Dr. Rowley said no to the request.
We go into a local government election. We've had that over and over and over and over. There's one due in a few weeks. Some of our colleagues are telling me I must invite foreigners to come and observe our local government election. No. What is it we expect to happen here in a local election that we have to invite foreigners to come and look at it? They're free to come if they wish. It's a free country. But that is not part of the government system. Why are we selling ourselves short? We send people from Trinidad and Tobago from our election and boundaries commission to observe other people's election because they see us as superstars in that business.
Let the law take its course. This is the response of the Prime Minister concerning the individuals heard in an audio clip discussing hiring persons under the Tobago House of Authority to Assembly to spread propaganda on behalf of the New Tobago People Party. THA Chief Secretary Fali Augustine has not commented on the matter when questioned on the issue by the media. However, speaking on the topic on Wednesday at a PNM breakfast meeting, Dr. Rowley said he will be responsible in his actions and called for the law to take its course once breached.
When the officers went to the site in Bamboo, there was no obvious evidence of any spillage of oil in that location. And they had to go all the way downstream, and they really didn't find that much, except at the mouth of the Caroni River where it meets the sea. There are some small traces of oil. But notwithstanding the fact that it appears on the face of it that the amount of oil that was put into the river is not a huge amount, we will treat with this with the utmost seriousness to find out who exactly did this and take action against the perpetrators.
The Senate has passed the Municipal Corporations Extensions of Terms of Office and Validation Bill 2023. The bill was passed on Wednesday with an additional amendment to it. Attorney General Reginald Armour promised the Senate to amend the bill so its effect did not also extend to after May 18th. He noted that between May 18th, 2023 to the date of the election, the mayors will remain in office, which speaks to the continuity that is provided for by Section 14 of the Municipal Corporations Act. Oil samples have been taken and will be assessed. Action will be carried out against the perpetrators. This is the update coming from Acting Minister of Energy and Energy Industries, Colm Imbert, relating to the illegal dumping of oil in the Caroni River. The Senate was told the effect of the incident has not been so severe to cause the activation of the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan. A specialist contractor, which has done work with Heritage Petroleum, has also been mobilized, and the spill was attended to by the Ministry of Energy and is also getting the help from oil operators and the Forestry Division.
When the officers went to the site in Bamboo, there was no obvious evidence of any spillage of oil in that location. And they had to go all the way downstream, and they really didn't find that much except at the mouth of the Caroni River where it meets the sea. There are some small traces of oil. But notwithstanding the fact that it appears on the face of it that the amount of oil that was put into the river is not a huge amount, we will treat with this with the utmost seriousness to find out who exactly did this and take action against the perpetrators.
You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley says the current education system is creating uneducated young gang members, and he believes it's time to start a conversation about the issue. Dr. Rowley lamented that significant amounts of young people pass through the secondary school system without learning anything. He blamed the automatic promotion of all children into secondary school as a main contributor to the problem. He questioned what happened to those children who enter the secondary school system having not been readied for primary school for the change. He asked, what is the curriculum that they are going to follow? Is the curriculum of the primary school as a continuation, or the curriculum of a secondary school that they can't cope with? The Prime Minister said if these questions are not answered, this country will continue to face the issue of young men coming out of the education system totally unprepared for a responsible life. Finally, here is weather news for the period today until midnight. Trinidad and Tobago, partly cloudy conditions with a few light or moderate showers. Increasing cloudiness likely as the day progresses, with the likelihood of heavier showers over some areas. There is a 60% chance of thunderstorm activity. Conditions will likely continue intermittently overnight. Gusty winds and street or flash flooding can occur in the event of heavy showers or thunderstorms. Look out for a temperature high of 31 degrees Celsius at Piarco International Airport and 30 degrees Celsius at Crown Point in Tobago. Currently, it is 27 degrees Celsius at both localities. Recapping your headlines to 7 o'clock. UNC requests for international observers to monitor upcoming local government election turned down. The Prime Minister blames the education system for creating uneducated gang members, and samples taken following illegal dumping of oil in the Caroni River. I'm Afril Sintilbab. That was news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. Look out for news, more news in detail at 12 noon, and an update coming your way at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right. Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much, Evie, for our major news. You can join Evie again come 8 o'clock for our news brief. All right. It is 9 minutes after the hour of 7 o'clock. Let's take a look at what's happening traffic-wise. Heading around San Fernando, southbound from Cookie Village. Yep, there is an accident in Gasparillo. Apparently, one of those vehicles that carries the chickens, it flipped on the Gasparillo flyover. Heading to Marabella, you got some traffic, Harmony Hall. After you pass the accident in Gasparillo, Rivulet Road is heavy, leaving Couva towards Chase Village. Also got some traffic. You're going to pick up your traffic again after Monroe Road, heading towards the interchange. Southern Main Road from Chin Chin Road is heavy. Kelly Village is lighter than usual. You got some traffic again. Piarco towards Uwe, and then Curup into Port of Spain. Eastern Main Road, various spots, you've got some traffic. Out of Marval is still heavy. Out of Dago, it's beginning to build a little bit. All right? And of course, going up Lady Young Road, you've got some traffic there. All right, so we're back. Second hour of the Power Breakfast Show. Let's see. Okay, so I've got Richie Rich. I have got I got Junior saying yes. I got Miss Ingrid saying yes. Let me check. Samuel Paul says yes. I did do Herder Wells. Okay, so that's what you got there, Richie Rich. Yeah. Right. Right, Rich. So that's
So our poll this morning was, should Trinidad and Tobago move to educate the children of registered migrants? Of course, those migrant children have not been allowed to be coming to the public school system, which is the one policy of the government so far with regard to the issue. So NGOs have been trying to take up some of the slack. But anyway, we had 21 people voting on the poll this morning. Of the 21 people voting on the poll, 20 of you said yes. The state should move to educate the children of registered migrants. One person said no. So 20.
You wonder what is supposed to do with the children? Leave them home and stymie their growth and development?
Yeah.
You allow them to stay in your country in a very magnanimous manner, which is very commendable. But we're going on, it started during the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken. We're going on 3 years now. They've been allowed to stay in Trinidad and Tobago legally. The ones who are registered anyway. If you came here with your child, you would have registered yourself and your child. If your child was 3, your child is 6 now. If your child was 4, your child is 7 now. And missing out on school. Somebody called earlier and said you can apply for an education pass. I have heard nothing about that. And if that was so, why is the American ambassador Candice Bond suggesting that the Americans stand ready to work with the TNT government on educating migrant children?
The state had a definitive position that migrant children could not go into the school system.
That's my memory of it.
Yes.
That's my memory of it. That is my memory of it. Because this has been a conversation since the registrations began, and since there was an extension of the initial registration of about 16 to 17,000 Venezuelan migrants in particular. And we've actually also not heard anything about what the status of those who opted to be registered are, and if there's going to be another wave of optional registrations for persons who may have come in legally after that. You understand?
Because that registration process actually started in 2019, I believe.
There you go. And I think that's about it. This is 23 now.
Yeah, just before COVID.
Mm-hmm. It's time for an update on a policy, a definitive policy.
But you see, all of that would have been covered, Paul, if we were serious about having a migrant policy, an asylum policy, all of that interconnected in some modern way in a civil democratic society. But the state machinery has avoided dealing with that issue for several iterations of who have governed us. It's not just a Canadian problem, it has been a UNC thing too.
Yeah, I don't even know if the state of Trinidad and Tobago has acknowledged them as refugees or asylum seekers. Because that was also a big question, whether they were going to be identified as refugees or asylum seekers. Because when you acknowledge that comes with certain stipulations according to UN conventions that we may have ratified. You understand? So I think there was even a concern about whether they have been identified, because we still calling them migrants and not refugees or asylum seekers, with which comes certain stipulations by the state. Even those issues have not been resolved in a public way.
Because we have tiptoed through the tulips, so to speak, and
Exactly.
with regard to how we treated with the issue, and which is and if you and we are signatories to a lot of those treaties, and we should have put things in place.
But that's why there has been a
I
reluctance.
cannot understand why there is a reluctance
I
for
don't
the
know.
state to deal with these kinds of
Because
matters.
if you call them migrants, it's nebulous. If you classify them as the state, as asylum seekers or refugees, the state has certain responsibilities under UN conventions that we are signatories to. You understand? So what you do is dance around the nomenclature and say, well, they're migrants. I'm also glad that the Prime Minister, because this is something I spoke about for years, this issue of the education system and its role in creating criminals, quite frankly. And the Prime Minister has now come out and publicly spoken about it. I've raised the issue of the dropout from primary secondary school. I've raised the issue of the underperformance in primary school transitioning to secondary schools. I've raised the issue of underperformance in secondary schools and its contribution to people you see on remand. And little or nothing has been done. So I'm glad the Prime Minister is actually taking the bull by the horn and said, let us discuss this nationally. Maybe it'll get some attention now because the former education minister seemed, what's the word? It's the kind word. Oblivious to these nuances. And I've been very kind by using the word oblivious.
Well, I suppose it's how you see your education system. If you see your education system as the engine of your economic future and as the engine for establishing and re-emphasizing the social contracts that we have with each other, and also the engine for own personal growth within the society and your hope and investment in the society, unless you see the education system as achieving all of those goals, or facilitating your growth as a human being and making sure that nobody is left out of it, then that would be
Richard, that is the important point. The point is, I think they do see it as the engine of growth. The problem is that I have heard an education minister in the past talk about lazy children and children who just don't want to learn and they don't understand the present context of education and the modern context of education. No child wants to fail. In most of the instances you see, there are learning disabilities undiagnosed, there are special needs undiagnosed, there are systems and accommodations that have not been provided to those children who are struggling. We like to parade the top scorers in the SCA. The minister goes stand next to the top performers, and the resources should be going toward the lower 30th percentile who are struggling. The former education minister was happy to tell me SCA is a placement exam, so 30% is no big deal. It is a big deal because if you are transitioning students who make barely 30%, they are not prepared for secondary school. They're going to struggle. But alas, we don't know what I'm talking about. This archaic approach to children who are struggling and have challenges in education needs to change. If the child is not performing, the state has not performed to reach that child for several different reasons. It could be home issues, it could be community issues, it could be neurocognitive issues, it could be a host of issues, it could be bad curriculum, it could be poor teaching. There are whole education districts in the country underperforming. What is the whole district bad?
Yep.
And they don't seem to accept the role of the system in the underperformance of those students. It's just so frustrating because then you're seeing wasted human potential year after year after year. As the Prime Minister, it's just a transition in secondary school with no provisions in place to deal with the remediation of those who did not perform adequately. We just accept that some will do well and some will do badly. Like if it's 40 years ago. That is not a modern education system. It's just not. Morning, but he's trying to get on here. I don't know if he's having some problems. Dr. Vanessa James is trying to log in, but he's in his car. Good morning, Dr. James.
How you doing?
Morning. I'm all right.
All right. Welcome to the Power Breakfast Show. We have Paul Richards and Richard Ragobarsingh.
Morning, everyone.
The car is the phone is in a holder, so you're safe. You're not holding the phone. Good morning, Dr. James. Good to see you. How are you? How is Tobago this morning?
I'm all right. I live in the mountains, Paul, so I didn't have time to get down to some other spot where I could talk to you from an office or something.
Well, you have a real good internet in that mountain because your video real clear.
I'm telling you, right.
You have a whole pole by yourself with a transmitter. Good to see you. We haven't spoken for a while.
Yeah.
How is Tobago?
Well, from the standpoint of our economy, we're stagnant and going nowhere. From the standpoint of our politics, you could see from the video that is circulating that we're in substantial trouble. And both of those.
Why from the video you're in substantial trouble if the video has not been properly identified as who is in the video?
Well, because the video in and of itself is not the only evidence we have that we are in big trouble. It's just the latest evidence, if it is authentic. Just last night I was called by one of Tobago's very senior attorneys, and he was giving me a lot of information about the fact that this video was out since early in the year, and that I asked him very, very bluntly, is this authentic? He said, speaking as a professional, I cannot say specifically I have enough evidence, but from what I have been told, it is. So the evidence is mounting, and the other thing is, the Chief Secretary needs to come out and say it is not authentic, if it is not, because it is causing so much consternation on the island that he's responsible for, that his silence is very worrisome, to say the least.
You have been on record as saying that you've worked with Mr. Augustine in the lead-up to the election and I guess advised on various issues. Would that be correct?
Yes, I campaigned with them, worked with them, sat in many meetings advising them on how to approach the business of changing the government and changing the way we govern ourselves and so on. Extensive economic analysis. In the previous THA, before this one, a lot of time helping them prepare their budget presentations and so on. I was very involved trying to get fundamental change in Tobago.
What is his silence on the accusations and allegations that this is him in this video purporting to tell someone to hire persons in the assembly and use those persons to disseminate propaganda tenable? Is his silence tenable at this level, at the level he's at?
I don't think so. I think he ought to speak up. It's at least in the last 2 weeks, consternation has grown over this matter, and if this is a video that is not authentic, he would know. So he should speak up and tell Tobagonians, there is nothing to worry about. Let's move on with our lives. This video is not authentic. His silence is very, very troubling to me and to Tobagonians.
What does it do to his credibility, if anything?
It's enormous damage. The Tobago Civil Net, which is a watchdog group here in Tobago that monitors and involves itself in a lot of the business of development for the island, came out a couple of days ago. They sent me the results of their meetings, saying that the Chief Secretary and his colleague should speak up. And I think they're right. A significant man like Reggie Dumas came out and made the point very clearly that if the video is authentic, time for the government to go. So we should have an election. All of that is raising fundamental questions. His silence is damaging his credibility. And he needs to get out of this by telling the Tobago people immediately, this is not an inauthentic video.
And if he confirms it's him, can he actually continue in that position? If he confirms it's him, is there any plausible way to justify or to explain it, the situation, if he confirms it's him and continue as the Chief Secretary?
I don't think so. It doesn't make sense. How can you, the head of your government can't be the head of a conspiracy? You saw last year the British removed 2 prime ministers in short order for moving in a way that appeared at the time to damage the public interest. You can't have your government can't lead the process of breaking the law, for sure.
This audio tape comes on the heels of a pretty tumultuous year for Mr. Augustine's administration. There was the fall of Watson Duke, the subsequent resignation from the PDP, the interim independent status, the formation of the Tobago People's Party, and persons suggesting, well, people didn't vote for that in Tobago. People didn't vote for a TPP. People voted for PDP. People didn't vote for independent candidates in the interregnum. What are your thoughts on this in terms of this 1 year tenure with all this turmoil and Mr. Augusta, a relatively young politician, who I think still a lot of potential, but I mean, has faced quite a lot in 1 year, and now this audio tape alleging to be him?
Well, you know, this Paul is a consequence of the way the THA itself is set up. Let me summarily say, without legislative oversight of the executive function. That's the central issue Tobago is confronting, and the nation for that matter, because I don't think it's very different in Trinidad either. But back in January last year, at his request, I set out a design that would allow the people of Tobago to bring their information and their thoughts to whatever the government is trying to do from a policy standpoint. Projects, everything. I recommended 5 advisory committees that should be set up to provide the public with an opportunity to consider what the government is proposing, provide information about it, and provide feedback to the executive council. So there is a way, even though it is not part of the legal structure, there is a way for you to know the mood of the society, what people think, get them involved in the governance process until we set up the structures in law. I was promised back in January by Farley that this would be done. This is May of 2023. Nothing has been done. And what I was proposing is not unusual. Remember, when Rowley took office in Trinidad, he set up an economic advisory board. So this is not an unusual device to be used by any government if you want to hear from the public. The absence of these kinds of devices lets the authoritarian structure of the THA fly to any government's head, and this has been so for 43 years of the THA's existence. When there is no mechanism by which the people could participate in the process of making policy, the authoritarian structure forces on the government some idea that it is responsible for what we're doing, as against all of us being responsible. And it just goes off and does its own thing, and 90% of the time, it is wrong. So we have a fundamental structural problem in the governance mechanism we have in Tobago that needs to be addressed. And Farley is failing to address it. And when everything he does runs into trouble, he simply goes silent, hides in the silo, and leaves the island without leadership. That's where we are really right now, fundamentally.
So you think the island is without leadership now?
I think so. I think we're not hearing from Farley on this. We should hear. And the absence of leadership amongst the absence of ways in which you could communicate properly with the public, back and forth. You hear our views, we tell you what we think. Remember, Meet the People tours can't do that. You need a structure tied closely to the way in which decisions are being made. So in the absence of that structure, you can't lead effectively anyway. And when you're silent on important matters like this, and only coming out when your personal business is involved, like when the licensing officers held up his wife and he came out. That sort of thing gives the impression that you're self-serving and you're not leading the rest of us.
I'm pausing for Richard.
For me, you know, the Tobago construct, of course, is different to Trinidad in that THA, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. James, but THA is by far the largest employer in Tobago vis-a-vis Trinidad, where the state sector would be a considerable employer, but not the largest. And I think that to me infects the dynamic that feeds into that authoritarian semblance that takes over the THA and whoever's in power there. So that because you have that kind of power in terms of employing people and getting money into people's pockets, it makes you resistant to what you are suggesting.
Yeah, it's not just that's right about the employment. It's about 64% of paid employees in Tobago working for the THA by the latest CSO data. But it's not just that. Remember, because it is the main channel through which money comes into the economy, all businesses, for the most part, the entire construction sector, the entire media, and so they're all very, very dependent on the THA. So the THA's lock on the economy is not just in its employment of paid employees, it's also in its financing of a lot of the other activities we undertake in the island. And so many people, there's palpable self-doubt and fear almost in the island about speaking out. When for the last 7 years, 8 years of very activist advocacy in Tobago, I would encounter a lot of people who would complain about victimization and the fear of victimization and the threat of victimization and so on. So what all that does is that it makes the government a millstone around Tobago people's neck and would block our development until we change the structure. People have to be given the opportunity in a small space like this, with the kind of troubled, failed economy we are running here, with 80% of our budgetary surpluses, budgetary revenues coming directly from the Trinidad economy, not from the Tobago economy, from the Trinidad economy. This is an island that is economically dependent on Trinidad, from the evidence we have. And when you lock the initiatives of the people down in this way, what you have is the absence of a set of mechanisms by which people could practice democracy and do the work needed to set up a viable economy on the island. So this is damaging to our development prospects, and it's a threat to the democratic experiences that we really need just to survive as a dignified population. You know, Tobago people kind of manage. They like to talk to Trinidad and say, well, you know, you're treating us bad and so on. But fundamentally, what we have here is almost a self-inflicted wound, a design that was put in place since 1980 of governance that in and of itself was inappropriate then, is inappropriate now, needs to be changed so that we could be liberated as a people to get active in the effort to build a viable economy on which we could take our place side by side in the nation with Trinidad.
Do you think Trinidad and Tobago understands the impact that the underdevelopment of Tobago is having on the Twin Island Republic, and how much we've lost because of that underdevelopment over the last 40 years?
I don't think so. I don't think not just for the last 40 years, from since independence. I don't think there's any clarity among the political classes of the true economic potential that Tobago provides for the diversification of the national economy. We've been arguing for decades now that the national economy needs to be diversified so that at least our export capacity is not as much locked into oil and gas as it is to this day. In Trinidad, what you've tended to focus on is trying to build a manufacturing export capability. And that has turned out to be a capability tied very much to food and beverage exports. Now, the exports on processed gas going forward is running into the challenges with global warming and all of that, what that would do to the demand for energy, the demand for fossil-based energy going into the future. So we know that ultimately we're going to have to deal with that issue, and the mechanism for dealing with that is available to any Caribbean economy that I study is going to have to be high quality capital service exports. Now, if you're going to do high quality capital service exports, building them up on the tourism platform will be a low-hanging fruit available to you. And Tobago brings the capability to do a lot of that as a national project from right early on. I mean, you in Trinidad would admit we have superior tourism platforms available to us to what you have in Trinidad. Although you're great with the carnival platforms and so on, we can do more with respect to the export of exportable education, exportable healthcare, and many other parts of the creative industries other than, say, the carnival industries that you built up down there. We could do carnival differently in Tobago, for example. All of those kinds of things would make Tobago a prime prospect to facilitate the diversification of the national economy.
But we always look at Tobago as a burden as opposed to an asset, and that's to me the philosophical mindset. She's actually talking to somebody in Barbados high up in the political realm last week, and they actually told me in jest, if Barbados had Tobago, they wouldn't need the IMF.
Well, that Tobagonians have been trying to say that to the country for the longest while. But you know, you need to. It's not Tobago's potential in the way in which the Barbadians would think of tourism. This is because Barbados' tourism is season and sand tourism fundamentally too. Although I know they're going off into some professional service exports. We're talking here about confronting seriously that we can't win on the manufacturing front. The latest information I got from people in the UN circles is that the Barbadians are heading down the road that the UNIDO and the UNCTAD has been trying to drive small island economy for the longest while, which is to get into manufacturing, where we have almost no chance of succeeding, given our labor markets, small size compared to China and the ASEAN countries and stuff like that. There is no chance we could make it there. But that's where UNCTAD, and I know those economists very well, that's where they think we should go. Now, our evidence living in the region is that we really could only win on the capital services. That's high quality education exports, just like what Britain and them are trying. We could hold our own there. We have demonstrated that we could hold our own there with our scholars being equal to scholars anywhere else in the world, and we could therefore attract other scholars from the rest of the world to come and build high quality education exports in the region. Some of
like
the evidence of
with the medical school.
Exactly, and not just in an offshore sense, Paul, in an onshore sense, that we could look at the things that the world is interested in beyond medicine. We could invest in it side by side with the foreigners. So it's not just an offshore school. It could be a Trinidad and Tobago high quality education export school, just like the University of Manchester or Oxford or Harvard or any one of them. They're all doing it. We could hold our own there, and we have demonstrated to the global community that we have the qualities that we need in order to do this properly. But the same is also true for healthcare exports. And there is no doubt Because in my own company, we practice that. We do high quality clothing design. Hold on to our intellectual property and send the designs, the whole set of designs, to China for manufacturing. So we claim our intellectual property. Now, this is what the fashion houses of the world would do. So we have potential wherever the intellectual input is important. And that is the sense in which Tobago provides a platform that could be linked with whatever the country as a whole could do, and you just tie it to the tourism product, the season and sand component of the tourism product we have. So the country should invest in a third university, focus purely on building capacity to export high quality education, and the national community would benefit from access to that quality through subsidies and stuff like that. The same is true for healthcare and all of that. We have to work it out properly, but it's possible, and Tobago is a base where it could be done adequately, and we could even make it a pilot project. So when you learn enough about it, I mean, we wouldn't be able to match you with, say, the healthcare capabilities you have in Trinidad. But if you're making it an export product, the nation could see the value of turning something like the Scarborough Hospital into what we originally intended it to be, which is a high-quality, export-oriented hospital, teaming up with universities around the world, around the region, and so on, to do that on a scale and a quality that would make us a real hub for high-quality, reasonable cost healthcare. Now, you had that view with the Cougar Children Hospital, you know, remember that? We talked about that very, very early. But then it disappeared into the ether. Now, here we don't have to have it disappear in the context of Tobago. Make it a project, take your time, build it up, and so on. That's what Tobago already represents. And if the THA was properly organized and all the voices could be heard, my voice, your voice, voice from the diaspora, and so on, many of the senior scholars we have around the world tell me I am prepared to come and assist in the conversation to shape what should be done. So,
you know,
but
Dr.
how
James,
can they go even get to that stage of the conversation if they are, if the structures that you spoke about earlier in terms of governance structures to make sure the TH is effective, accountable, and transparent, you have so much struggle with those basic day-to-day running administrative accountability structures. How can you get to a different level conversation that you're talking about here if they don't even want to engage in conversations about changing the structure because they like the emperor syndrome? They love it.
Well, you know, Paul, when I campaigned for that 7-year period running into the 2021 elections, the two sets, that's what the campaign was about. You heard me on the platform. That's what I was saying. They agreed with me. All of these guys would come to the meetings before we go to those political meetings, and they would say, okay, we're happy for you to go on the platform and talk about these things. I couldn't believe, I have to tell you, that in January last year, after we won those elections, that there would be this slow walking towards the setup. I still can't really believe in some ways that there is so much resistance by a young group of political people to this kind of change. It's the only chance we have. It's the only chance Tobago has, and in a sense, it's the only chance the nation has to learn how to set up the opportunities for the people of the country to practice.
So what does that tell you? What does that tell you? I mean, to me, it sounds like I'm trying to be kind here and be gracious, but they needed credibility of people like yourself. They went to the meetings, they took all your advice, but they defaulted once they got into the office. They defaulted to the base level operation because they get what they want out of you already.
It says the country has to do the political work, not me alone. I will continue to do it in Tobago, make the case. But the country has to wake up and do the political work to set up the government in Tobago properly, at least as a pilot project for the nation as a whole. All of us have to get involved in pushing the media in Tobago, the media in Trinidad, the political interests in Trinidad have to see the substance of the point and join together to change the law and change the design of the THA on behalf of the nation before we put another government in power. You can't put any, the experience over the last 43 years for me is that you can't put any government in power on any such promise anymore.
But
They
Dr.
won't
James,
do it.
you are somebody who is somebody who's a scientist. You deal with data and trends. Everybody who is in opposition talks about the changes that need to be enacted when in opposition.
I know.
And when they get into the seat, they want to maintain the status quo because the emperor don't want no new clothes.
I know. Well, we can't put them in without the structures in place. We have to change the system. So the next round of political campaign has to be about changing the system first. So we have two bills in the parliament in Trinidad. You know about them very well. We have those two bills there. Both bills are the wrong types of bills. They're wrong changes. The Constitution Amendment Bill is amending the Constitution the wrong way, and the Tobago Governance Bill should really not be there at all. It should be something that the THA would be allowed to design. So you need to let's do the political work now, talk to Dr. Rowley and his team, and let us lobby to change the Constitution while doing the political work in Tobago. All of us, everybody, the whole country must get involved in doing the political work to push for the change in the THA Act that would put the oversight arrangements in place. The THA itself is too small to do oversight. You can't have 8 executive council members and have any oversight in a design like that. So you've got to deal with a new design completely, in which people go into the parliament to do oversight, just go to do that and have nothing to do with the executive council. And you keep the executive council as a tiny minority of the overall structure. We need to push politically and lobby to get that design in place before we call the next election. So the next set of people who go into the THA go there with an oversight design in hand, and then they can't behave in this autocratic way that they're behaving.
Well,
but that involves Trinidad agreeing with you, because obviously that change has to come from the Trinidad government that sits in the Red House. And,
that's correct.
And if they're not willing to hear that conversation, how do you move on from there?
Well, remember, we the people, the country won the country. You know, it's all of us who have to campaign for this. It's people in Trinidad have a responsibility to see and understand the point of this discussion this morning, which is that there is potential in Tobago for development. We're underutilizing it. We need to get up, smell the coffee, and move on with the matter. And the way to do that is to set up the governance arrangement in Tobago properly, so proper policy could be made on a collective basis. Remember, when we talk about proper policy in Tobago, I don't mean policy excluding Trinidad. I mean that you set up the government in such a way that any citizen anywhere could come to the THA and say, this is what I think because I want to invest in Tobago. This is what I think because you are critical to the national interest and so on. So Trinidadians must be able to come and access the hearings processes. Tobagonians must be able to do so. Nationals in the diaspora, investors from the diaspora, everybody must have access to tell the government what it knows, what they know, and to help shape the decisions that are made in the interests of the country. It is that design that the country must understand. It is the substance of what we've been arguing for 50, 60 years in the nation. Ever since CLR, this case has been made.
But you see, but in any case, THA, whether it be THA or whether it be the Trinidad and Tobago national government, they're in a position of leadership. And leadership requires that you make decisions. So even though you could have a variety of voices saying, and people tend to be very self-interested. So if I'm coming to Tobago to invest, I will be wanting a particular route or on how my investment is going to make me profitable. And that may not coincide with somebody from the diaspora who has a different mindset in terms of how they see Tobago being run. So you're going to get disparate voices.
Of
but
course.
ultimately, the leaders are going to have to decide.
Well, the legislative leaders, not the executive leaders. That's the problem I have now. The leaders decide now, but they are the executive leaders, and that means there's no real way for you to have the rule of law. The rule of law is about legislative control of executive choices. Law is made to instruct the executive as to what to do. Now, when they're making their own law, as you do in Trinidad and as we do all over the Caribbean, really, what you really run a set of legally validated kingdoms. That never works well. If you look at the proper evidence around the world, what you would see is that where you have real effective democracies, those are the countries, that the 24 or so countries that are doing best. They're doing even better than on a per capita basis than any, by far, than any of the autocratic countries, including China. So what you have to pay attention to is that we need to go down the road of effective rule of law and have the conversation among ourselves. We all will be in the discussion. You're not forcing legislators to do anything, but you're giving them access to appropriate, adequate information. Right now, they don't have access to that. You don't have access to it in Trinidad because CSO type data, random sampling data, is never going to be adequate and never going to compare to what you get from the details that are provided by interested parties who bring the facts and the details to the table. I've seen this work when I was a professor in the USA. I've participated in the process. The information the government gets to make policy is much richer than any random sample could give you that I could generate for you. That's the point. So it doesn't mean you don't get disparate views. What you mean is you get much better information, and the political pressures would come down on the legislators, and they would be very unwise to always listen to themselves alone and not listen to the public. And that's really what you see working in Britain. That's what you see working in the US and so on. That's what we really ought to set up here. That's what we meant in 1970 when we talked about power to the people. That's the substance of it. Never mind all the other rhetoric. That's the substance. If we put it in place here, we have a chance.
Your proposition suggests that the objective that you're proposing in terms of the interest of the people generally and equitably is what persons who attain the executive power are also interested in the same way. And that's not necessarily also so. Very often, sectarian interest trump equitable distribution of wealth and resources in any country behind the scenes. So it's not. So while we sometimes, well, why are they doing that? It's because they don't necessarily always have the same overall objectives as we presume they do.
Sure, but remember, don't forget that this fundamental point I'm making is that this is not just going to be executive decision making. This is about legislative decision making. In other words, people are in the parliament who are not there to run the executive. You put 8 of Tobago's elected reps to run an executive. And run an executive means run it under the instructions and guidance of the legislature. That's what it means in all democracies. Now, it's the composition of the legislature that's our problem. Remember, Paul, in Trinidad, the legislature is fundamentally dominated by the executive. That's what you don't want. You want, therefore, to have enough numbers outside.
There's no check and balance.
Yeah, enough of them. The arithmetic must say these guys are 8. Well, then we have 40. 32 of them would be non-executive people. They go to the parliament and their day job is to look at the law, do oversight, write proposals, come up with new policies after hearing what the people have to say. That's the thing that is missing here. It's missing in Barbados. It's missing in Jamaica. It's missing in Trinidad. But when Tobago doesn't have it, what it does is that it perpetuates the trouble we are in. So we can't take a view that, well, there is sectarian, narrow interest that will tend to dominate. You can't believe that. You have to believe that you could get real democracy to work. That's the human way. You work out a proper solution and let's put it in place. But my point to you is all of us are responsible for that.
Agreed. If I could go back in the last 5 minutes we have with you, and I can't get over how clear your internet is. Who's your provider?
Isn't that so?
That is the most astounding video we've had from any guest. To the assembly as it now stands and the challenges facing Mr. Augustine and his team, who got an astounding 14-1 mandate. I mean, in the history of Tobago, a 41 mandate means that, one, people believed what you had to say in terms of what you promised as new politics. And people rejected the incumbent at the time for what they were discontented with, they were unsatisfied with. And now we have a year of turmoil. How much of that mandate is left?
Not much of it. I go everywhere in Tobago, from Charlottesville to Canaan, and people everywhere. I have not yet met one person going on for the last year who is satisfied with the government for failing to do what it has to do and what it promised to do. So the THA now, Fali and his team, has lost the confidence of the people of Tobago. My only guidance is we can't simply call a new election until we tackle the issue of changing the system. Remember that we need to change them, but we need to change the system before we put anybody else there. That's the key thing. I watched Orville work. I watched Pachoy work. Kelvin Charles work. I watched Robbie work. I watched Denoon work. Autocracy damages the system, the people, turns angels into devils. It doesn't work for Tobago. No matter what you do with it in Trinidad, because of your size and the size of the business community and so on, in Tobago, it is nothing but a threat to our possibilities. And so we need to change it. They have lost the credibility. We need to change the government, but we need to change the system before we put a new government in power.
So it's less a leadership issue than a systemic issue. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it is a systemic issue. It's more a systemic issue than a leadership issue. It's first and foremost that we've designed a government that provides the population no opportunity to practice democracy and work together as a team to build an island economy.
Even with that said, has Fali Augustine been a good leader?
Not at all. Fundamentally, my practical experience with Fali is he would tell you this and do nothing or do the opposite. His word is not his bond. I could say that to the public today after 17 months of Fali experience. His word is not his bond. He is, and that really is the substance of what Duke was complaining about, although Duke does things in the most unorthodox and inappropriate of ways. But that's the substance of the complaint. You can't take Fali's word for what it is.
That's a very stinging indictment of someone who seemed to mentor Mr. Augustine and his team for a number of months.
Well, you know, Paul, you can't know people until you actually work with them. You are a professional, you know that. People could tell you anything. When you sit down to really work with them, you really know who they are. I am extremely surprised. Of course, one guy told me the other day, you didn't vet Fali enough. Well, you can't vet any individual enough in that regard. What you have to do is hear what they have to say and be committed to collaboration. And that's what I did. But once you know me, once I see you're not doing the right thing for the people of Tobago, I would speak out, because that for me is everything. Let's do the right thing for population, for the Tobagonians and for the nation, and for the region for that matter. So I don't think Fali has demonstrated high quality leadership or any serious capacity to even master the issues and to be chief secretary, meaning secretary of everything, secretary who could lead all the other divisions. I don't see that. And much more what I see is about an inclination to look after yourself. Ever since we won the elections in December, I warned Fali. I said, if you focus on fixing up the executive rather than setting up the arrangements for Tobagonians to participate in the governance process, you will run the government like the PNM and you will get PNM results. This is 17 months later and I'm deadly right. Unfortunately.
Dr. James, thank you for being with us. I still want to know your internet provider because that's the best internet I've seen today. Go for a long because it flips once, your face as clear as ever, and when I got no trouble notifications on the program.
That's because I park up on the side of the road talking to you.
Yeah, but people don't pack up and still have problems with the internet. So anyway, that's it. Thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate your candor and your contribution.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you, Dr. James.
Thank you so much, Dr. Varnes James, for being with us on the Power Breakfast Show.
Yeah, man. You're welcome.
All the best to you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right.
I don't think it's get more stinging than that.
Yeah, boy.
Anyway, those of you on YouTube, we're going to say goodbye to you right now on Facebook. And we continue on power102fm.com and on our Power 102 FM app after our 8 a.m. newscast. Good Thursday morning to you.
Yeah.
Welcome to June.
All right.